For those of us who are mothers, we know that our children tend to grow up quickly. I mean, we blink and these little cuddly, beautiful life changers are suddenly no longer looking up at you for all the answers, but in this day and age, they actually are giving you some of the answers, or as I tend to say, they are recycled old people because they come here almost knowing things. So in this video, I'm actually giving you a peek into some of the kinds of experiences I've had with one of my daughters, and they're both equally as enriching when I get into the chats with them. But this one, because of the both the subjects of it, is they're still right now at the peak of interest, I thought I would actually share this. I mean, it was just too delicious to just keep to myself. So I invite you to, once again, if you've seen the earlier video from Princess-Elenah, I want to share this with you, and I hope that it touches your soul the same way it did mine. And enjoy.
Say what you want about the Barbie movie, say what you want about the Oppenheimer movie, but when I tell you that both movies are going to be nominated and win awards, I mean that. And this is going to be the first time in so long that I feel like both movies absolutely deserve it, because both movies, they knew what their goal was and they achieved the goal. And I love movies like this because I have a notes app in my phone where I watch movies and then I rate them, and I go deep. Sometimes I will even go as deep as like the soundtrack. I just love movies that allow me to really pick it apart to give it such a good rating. And both movies, it was not planned for them to be released on the same day, and a lot of people thought it was going to be a hindrance to either of the movies for them to be released on the same day. But both movies, first of all, marketing wise, amazing. Marketing wise, the world cannot get enough of either one. Also, both movies, they raise so much debate. Like, I've heard so many people debate the Barbie movie and the Oppenheimer movie, and that's how you know it's a good movie. If everybody agrees on a movie, then the movie was probably playing it safe. If everybody decided that they hated a movie, the movie was probably not good to begin with. But if everybody decided that they absolutely loved a movie, the movie was either probably playing it safe, or there was probably just a heartfelt reason. For example, the Black Panther movie. I've never heard anyone say anything bad about it, but Chadwick Boseman passed away, so it's really difficult to dislike a movie that has that much emotion tied to it, right? But Barbie, Oppenheimer, both movies, half of the people love them, half of the people hate them. That's how you know it's a good movie. Because if a movie can get people riled up and going back and forth on what made it good or what didn't make it good, or what they liked and what they didn't like, it was a good movie. Nonetheless, both movies were incredibly needed. It happened at the perfect time, and I will explain. The Oppenheimer movie. I believe that the Oppenheimer movie should have been released a long time ago. Obviously, everything in its due time, and this was just the time that it needed to be released. But it's actually shocking to me how many people don't know the true story of Oppenheimer. It's actually very scary. Like, when the Oppenheimer movie came out and I went around being like, oh my gosh, I really want to see this, I'm so excited. The amount of times that I've had conversations with people my age, or people a little bit older than me, or people a little bit younger than me, trying to explain to them who Oppenheimer was and what Oppenheimer did in history, it's very shocking. And I know that, me personally, Oppenheimer wasn't really taught in school. Now, the bomb of Hiroshima, yes, that was taught, but it didn't really go in depth. And there are a lot of things in history that we need to go in depth about. Oppenheimer, I think, is one of them. And I think we kind of just graze past that piece of history without actually diving deep into what it meant for American history, Japanese history, and international relations on the whole. That movie was 3 hours long. That's the first reason a lot of people didn't like the movie, because it was 3 hours long, and people were like, I'm not gonna sit in a movie for 3 hours. But at the same time, I'm like, no. We all need to sit in a movie for 3 hours. A movie that's based on a true story, we need to sit in that movie for 3 hours, especially in this day and age. When you see what's going on in the world, I think we need to be reminded that there are a lot of things going on that have already happened before. And if we don't realize that it's happened before, we're just gonna let it happen again. So if you really don't know everything that Oppenheimer did and everything that came to the rise and the fall of the atomic bomb, you need to sit in the movie theaters and watch it for 3 hours. And if you don't want to sit and watch a fictional movie based on a true story, then go and watch a documentary or something. But you need to educate yourself, because it's actually very scary how many people don't realize, and how many Americans don't realize, everything revolving around the atomic bomb. Dare I say. I understand 3 hours is a very long time to be sitting in a movie theater, but people spend 3 hours sitting around like watching TV anyways, even if it's not just one straight movie. If you can sit in your room for 3 hours watching TV shows, you can sit down and watch a 3-hour movie talking about how the government paid a man to create a bomb that they knew was going to cause mass destruction on a country. Unnecessarily, I might add, and I understand that some people are going to disagree, and I'm not a historian, I'm not a chemist, and I'm not going to have that debate, but it is something that you can have your own opinion about, but you can only have your opinion about it if you actually take the time to learn it. So watch the movie. It's actually very scary how much was accurate. Second, Barbie movie, we love it. Everybody had mixed emotions about it, because there are certainly aspects of the movie that you can easily pick apart and be like, no, unnecessary. But the main goal of the movie and the underlying lesson of the movie is that women in my generation and in the generations before me, they have the opportunity to make decisions for their life. That women in the older generations never got to make for one reason or another. So how I am a woman in STEM, me being a woman in STEM, this movie sort of reminds me and other people that you're not just doing this for you, and you're not just doing this for your future daughter or your future granddaughter, but you're doing this for like your great grandma who probably wanted to be a woman in STEM and never got the opportunity because they never finished school, or they had to go straight into factory working, or they had to go straight home and cook and clean and all that, or they weren't from America, so they didn't really get the opportunity to have a good education, right? Like, that movie definitely covers topics that we hear all the time, but they made a really fun way for you to actually sit down and think to yourself, we're not there yet. We're not there yet at all. And yes, there are aspects of the movie that you can pick apart and say, like, there's a line in the movie where Barbie is like, I think about death often. Yes, that's a very uncomfortable line in the movie, and I know that it's very easy for people to say, ooh, I don't want my kids watching that. I don't want my kids talking about that, X, Y, and Z. There are certain scenes in the movie where certain Barbies say things that certain women relate to and other women don't. But that's one of the reasons why they made a Barbie movie where there's not just one Barbie and one Ken, but there are like 30 to 40 Barbies and 30 to 40 Kens, and each Barbie is drastically different from one another, and each Ken is drastically different from one another, because when they say stuff, it's not everything they say isn't meant for you, right? For me, when that one Barbie was like, I think about death often. I really don't. I enjoy my life. But first of all, that line was taken completely out of context. You have to watch that scene to see the conversation. But also, there's probably another young woman in the theater who related to that scene. But there was a scene in the Barbie movie where a young Barbie was talking to an older Barbie about making the decision to leave the Barbie world and go into the real world, where she wanted to get a real job and pursue a real career. Some people in the movie theater might not have related to that scene. Me personally, I did. Because that's exactly what I want to do with my life, right? There's a Ken in the movie who realized that his girlfriend, Barbie, was chasing her dreams and chasing her aspirations and developing her own personality. And he felt like he had none of that. No dreams, no aspirations, no personality, because he was living in this Barbie world. And he goes through his own crisis of feeling like he isn't good enough, or he isn't achieving things fast enough, or he isn't going at the same rate as everybody else, as all the other Kens, or even as Barbie. And I might not have felt that way. I might not have related to that, but maybe there was like a young man in the audience who related to that. Not everything that was said in that movie was meant for you to pick up, but it was in the context of knowing that there are so many different young men and so many different young women in the world, that they needed a movie where there was a fun way to show all of the different internal struggles that people of my generation face, and all of the different ways that they choose to overcome it. And in the end of the movie, spoiler alert, but in the end of the movie, Barbie leaves the Barbie world and goes into the real world and decides to pursue a career and do all that, and she leaves all the other Barbies behind, and some of the older Barbies are nervous and everything, and some of the younger Barbies admire her for doing that. Tell me that that's not just like the real world. You know, you have a young woman who decides to break the glass ceiling and do something that other women have never done before. And so you have the older woman who might be a little bit nervous because that's new to them. It's something that in their generation they would have never done, even if they wanted to do it. And then you have younger women who look at them with awe because they're like, wow, I didn't know it could ever be done. So say what you want about the Barbie movie. It might have been childish to you. The marketing might have looked very silly, very girly pop, very childish, but the lesson and the message can't be missed. It can't go over your head because it was quite literally in your face, and it might not have affected you in the way that it affected the next person, but I guarantee you in every single theater that it's played in, there's one young woman who needed that reminder that what they're doing is not just for them, but it's not just for the generation after them, but it's also for the generation that came before them. That being said, I said it once and I'll say it again. Say what you want about the Barbie movie or about the Oppenheimer movie, but they both achieve their goals and they both are going to win awards. And I think that they both deserve to win awards because they did what other movies have not done in such a long time. Everything down to the marketing, everything down to the casting, everything down to the directing and the producing. They did what other movies have not done in such a long time, and they did it well. And it's refreshing to see that there are still people in Hollywood that are willing to get creative. They're willing to make a movie that might seem silly, like Barbie, but at the end is actually very heartwarming. Or, you know, they're willing to do things like making a movie that's 3 hours long to educate people on something that's actually very important in American history and very trivial in American history.